Bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong. This is Joe, the bearded historian. He'll tell you an interesting history. Be careful of his soldiers, they can be brats. This is Angel, she's an entity. She'll cause chaos and plant her hands at you. This is Sue, she likes spirits, not the alcohol. She's the reason this channel exists. This is David, he likes fire trucks. He's here occasionally. Bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong. We preserve his story. It is Wednesday. First Wednesday of September. Welcome to September and almost fall. I think we're going to have an Indian summer and it's going to be hot for a while, unfortunately. But we'll make the most of it. Are you ready? Today's presentation is in honor of Labor Day. For those of you who are not in the U.S., Labor Day is basically a holiday, federal holiday, which basically means banks and some businesses are off, and those who are open generally get paid more because it's a working holiday. Basically what it is that a bazillion years ago, people decided that they to start labor's unions to make jobs safer, better hours, better pay, things like that. It did start with a parade of sorts, but its parade was more of a strike, one of those striking where you marches. That's what I'm looking for, marches. And it has grown to be kind of a relaxing, day at the end of summer. And we were listening to the radio, and they were talking about jobs, and we got talking about weird, unusual jobs that you don't hear about in the course of growing up. These are ones that you don't hear talked about or see advertised. And so hopefully you'll enjoy that little tidbit of weird and unusual jobs. If you know of a weird and unusual job, leave it in the comments. I'm going to try to remember to put that as my question. Ready? Our shout out is a new race, dragons. Here we go. Shout out time. Here's a shout out just for you. You support me, so I support you. This shout out is for our friends. Let's see who it is today. To load the list. Hang on a minute. Alright, there we are. Now start. Start. There we go. There we go. There we go. Okay. We got She Stole, I See Tramps, I See Mountain Inspiration, Matcha Daily, there goes George in the background, Cruising Nuts, Tramps, Turtle, One Busy, there's Ryan, there's Ella, there's Pete, there's Kefla, there's Pinned, there's Crystal, there's Judy May, there's Bobby, there's Tates, there's Ohio, there's Northern, there's Neil. I see Supered. Let's see, who else? There's Richmond. There's Contact. There's Kiko. I don't know how to pronounce that. There's Debbie. Let's see, who else do we see? There's Bubba. Oh, it looks like it's Yuko in the main. Okay. This is, and I'm probably mispronouncing this because I'm terrible at this. It is Okobo. And we've got some food here. Some travel. More food in their shorts. Oops. And then live, of course, is this is mostly like hangout, watch hours, background kind of stuff. So if any of that interests you, check them out. Like, share, comment, have a good day. All right, bearded historian, tell them about our weird and interesting idea.
Well, Sunday, I should say Monday, they celebrated Labor Day. And one of the primary things that Labor Day sought to do when it was first approached as a holiday was the efforts to improve working conditions, both in the country and around the world. A lot of the people were looking for better wages, lower hours worked, safer working conditions, fun stuff like that. Back in the day, when you would think about when people worked in the coal mines, they'd work for 25 cents for 10 hours to 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. And needless to say, it kind of was detrimental to life. But, you know, that's what they wound up working with until companies would go on strike and the employees would walk out on their jobs, or sometimes they'd even sit down right at their jobs. That would result in, you know, the calling of sheriffs and stuff like that. There was a lot of situations that, you know, developed. But what we came across that was kind of funny is we were having ice cream at the time. We started thinking about the fact that, you know, there are odd jobs, you know, quote unquote micro, but at the same time there's also jobs that, you know, there are jobs that go obsolete. You know, there's some jobs that just simply no longer exist, either because they aren't used anymore. For example, when we go to cemeteries and I find some of my military vets, they don't have horses anymore, so your veterinarians are no longer used. Horseshoeing or ammo trains, you know, those sorts of things are very far and in between. Again, the cavalry just, you know, is no longer being used out there. But there's also places that, like here in the Black Hills, I was just looking at an item where they completely shut down a power plant. Not because it wasn't working, but because they found a better way to take and make electricity at another location. We used to have one up here in the Black Hills that was called the Kirk Power Plant. We've mentioned it a few times. It was built back in the 1930s, and for a good time, it was the primary source of electricity for Homestake, for Lead and Deadwood both, for Central City, all the way up to Spearfish. And it proved its job time and time again until they very much came to the conclusion that it was easier for them to generate the electricity out in Wyoming and then run power lines up and over and across with modern plants. The Kirk plant, of course, had been updated for a number of years because they never really saw the need to. But the fact is, to keep the Kirk plant running, they had to run coal from Wyoming into South Dakota on a dedicated rail line. Whereas the plant in Wyoming, it was literally right across the street. So, you know, there was a case where they were able to consolidate, and a number of the employees that they were able to wound up going and moving to Wyoming to work over there. But anyway, while we were sitting there having ice cream, we started coming across the idea of what sort of odd jobs do they have out there. And so we started hunting and pecking through this happy list of unique positions. And some of these, you know, it was mentioned on one of the comedians saying, you know, they have career day at high school, and there's different jobs that you would never imagine them having at a job fair. And it makes you wonder how they came up with some of these. Like the guy that gets to shoot chickens out of cannons at the windshields of airplanes.
I still don't know where that job is so that I can apply.
Yes, because somebody's got to test that out to make sure your glass is strong enough in your Cessna so that, you know, when a bird strike hits it, it doesn't kill you. But the first one that they had up here is kind of interesting. Beaver relocation expert. Now, that means you have to have two problems that one person gets to solve. First of all, you have to have a exceedingly large number of beavers in an area to the point that it is causing problems, which means either you're, you know, grasslands are flooding. You're running into issues where there's a number of trees that get chopped down. If I remember right, just this last, when they did the spring cleanup, they actually painted the bases of a number of the trees so that the beavers wouldn't chop down those specific trees. So it makes me wonder, did they go over and collect the beavers and, move them to another location, or are they just going to wait to see if that effect worked for the last year, and then if it works again, they'll just do it over? It's a grand question. Now, I have one here called a slime master. Now, depending on how you use your slime, Angel would be good at this.
Not that kind of slime.
Right.
That's too new.
That's too new. Okay. Are you talking about the slime, like the slime plant that they had up in Deadwood?
I would assume so. I found it on Mike Crow's list, so I would assume so.
All right.
I don't know.
There's different things that they've done in the, call it the amalgamation process of gold, regarding the use of slime to get the ore cleaned out of the bedrock and other minerals. To me, it just sounds gross altogether. Right. But,
that's why it's a dirty job.
Yeah. And, back then, they were also working with fun minerals like arsenic and stuff to try to chlorinate and get the gold out in various methods, which led to the main creek up there kind of being gray, which probably wasn't very safe to drink.
Probably.
Although they did also have a rather unique episode come around about that, because Homestake was able to find an enzyme that was able to eat at the pollutants, thus not only causing a problem, but fixing a problem. So, kind of worked in both ways. Deer urine farmer. You're going to go chase after deer looking for their urine.
I don't know how it works, but I know it's a thing that hunters buy.
Right, that's that spray thing for, to basically camouflage or, for a deer in heat.
It's the end of my knowledge.
Yeah. Now, here's one that I can imagine is both curious. I did also hear on the radio that it is illegal here in America.
Oh, no.
Caviar harvester.
They've got farms now, and they can, not genetically,
they got farms where they can harvest it.
They also can fake it now.
Oh, like...
That's the word I'm looking for.
Well, fake is a good way to put it, but...
There's another word. Not well, it's kind of manufacturing.
Kind of a manufacturing word.
I can't think of the word.
Yeah. But, yeah, for caviar, I mean, they use, fish eggs. They use beluga. But the big thing is that due to our embargo against Russia, there are most of the United States, you can't have caviar. Or if you do, well, just don't tell anybody about it.
There's fake caviar nowadays.
Yeah.
Unless you're in, like, real expensive places.
Right. And I don't know why they want to charge so much, just for the nostalgia of it. Yeah. Necropsy. Do you remember what necropsy was supposed to be regarding?
Yes. That's the one where was in the marine biology field, where they found the dead marine thingies and they dissect them like CSI to find out why they died.
Talk to the expert right here.
I remember we looked it up because I was like, "Wow, on Earth is that?"
Yeah, yeah. Now this is the one that kind of freaked both of us out. Hotel soap recycler.
I still
the only thing I can think of, just for the chemical reasons, is that they take the soap that's not even taken out of the package yet. They recollect it so they can redistribute it to the hotel rooms. Because once that's unwrapped, I wouldn't touch it again.
Unless they do it differently than the one time I worked in a hotel a bazillion years ago.
I
was like 16.
If
it was unwrapped, we didn't take it out.
Right.
We just left it there.
Just left it there.
That does not count as recycling, I don't think.
Maybe.
Because you're not actually doing anything. You're just, it's
I mean, yeah. If you think about things like Play-Doh or certain items where you can actually reconstitute it, recycle it, and then repackage it, that could be recycling. The only thing I could think of is that maybe they collect it, they reheat it, they add water, they dry it out, and then they rewrap it.
I don't know. It's just weird.
Yes. Rock sucker.
still think that was a weird one.
Yes.
Do we want to get the definition of that one out?
Yeah, pull that out.
Hang on.
Because rock sucker.
Because that was one of the oldie ones that I found. Hang on a minute. I
Yep.
have to find my list. See, this is why I asked you if you had your list here. Hang on. Rock. Because I could type words. Rock. I don't want a dot. Sucker.
Because I remember we had mentioned the idea of there was what was known as a stone eater.
Right. And this was, I think, similar to the stone eater,
Mm-hmm.
but different. Hang on a minute.
Yeah.
I'm looking up. Okay. Historical weird jobs. Here we go. Let's try this. I should have sent this to you.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I'll pause it for a second.
Sure.
So it's sitting there
Yep.
listening to us.
All right. Well, the rock sucker that they had mentioned, and this was kind of a unique thing, because you think about roofing tiles and roofing materials, and they came up with various varieties. You had your wood roofs. The thing that these guys would do is that they would take rocks that come off of the roof. I was thinking mostly of your asphalt type tiles, and what they would probably do is that they would pull the loose ones off of the roof, and they could either re-embed them, for security purposes, or they would recycle them into asphalt. Because I do know that that is one of the funny things about them doing road work anymore, is that, well, to do road work, you tear up the old asphalt, mix it with fresh supply, and then re-pour it out, which to me is kind of a form of recycling in its own right. Of course, asphalt's not exactly known for its ability to stay in one piece for a long period of time, which is funny because everybody's like, well, let's just build a rolling road. They last forever.
Right.
But next on the list that they had here, you had a jelly baller. Jelly baller. Anybody watch SpongeBob SquarePants?
Jellyfishing.
Jellyfishing. Yep, that's exactly what it is. Jelly baller. It goes out and collects jellyfish for various purposes, whether scientific studies or other purposes. You have the date palm pollinators. Everybody needs pollen. I mean, it's one of the natural courses of action.
I included this one because I think I vaguely remember this episode of Mike Rowe. And they literally have to climb the trees.
Yeah.
To help the trees pollinate, because they're so big, and the normal pollinators like bees and things don't get up there to some of the sections, so they have to do it by hand.
Oh, weird.
And so just like, it's one of those weird, crazy jobs that you're just like, I understand why it exists, but also, isn't there a better way nowadays?
Yeah, and who was the first person to come up with this idea?
Right?
Ed, what are you doing up there? I'm trying to help the tree. Ed, these guys with the white coats are here for you again.
I'm pollinating my tree.
Don't do that.
You're doing what? I'm pretty sure I got arrested.
Probably at least once. Now, Bug Detective, this one is interesting, but I also like it because it's part of that whole CSI vibe. Because, these guys will investigate a crime scene. They will find specific bugs that will tell you, like, exactly how long the body's been there, what the stage of decay is. That way they have evidence that they can tie it down to a specific time. And I remember watching the episode. Oh, and it was gross.
It was very gross.
But
I remember a lot of CSIs where they're like, there was this really weird bug, and that bug pretty much solved the case.
Yeah.
Because it was in this stage of larva or something really random and weird.
Cricket farmer. Now, these guys, I have to give them credit, because for those of you who have snakes,
We have a lot of
salamanders
and spider peoples.
Yeah, you don't know where your crickets come from unless you're skilled enough to catch them outside. These guys are the guys that sell to your pet stores for fresh food. This one is kind of interesting because you think about it, you see them in pretty much every store, and at the same time, they, just like everything else, have to adapt. Mannequin makers. Because the most standard one is the guy and the lady standing straight up. Now, how many of us fit into that category?
They don't have hands or heads.
Anything like that, yeah. And they're easier to put clothing onto now instead of trying to fully dress a full-size mannequin. Venom harvester. Now, this one I have to give credit to because up here, for example, let's use the example of us being out by Kappa. Who do we here know, kids, that almost stepped on a rattlesnake twice? Now, if you think about Kappa, or even that second small house down there,
right?
If you got bit by a rattlesnake,
you're a long ways for anybody.
Exactly, and you may even be out of cell phone range.
You definitely would, because there's no signal up there.
No. And so what these guys do is that if they catch a rattlesnake, they will take and milk the venom out of said snake so then they can produce anti-venom. Now, it's not just snakes anymore. You got spiders, black widow spiders, that you need to get anti-venoms for. And, I mean, we'll talk to the guys in Australia. Everything down there wants to kill you.
Right? No.
You've got spiders that are bigger than a hand.
Yeah, I'd love to go to Australia, but also I'm too scared.
I'm not getting off that plane. I'm sorry.
No. It's one of those places that I'd love to go, but I'm too scared.
Yeah.
I'm too scared.
No, I'm good, thanks. Now this one here, again, it's in that category of it's almost not used anymore, but at the same time, I know that there are people that will swear by it. A goose down plucker for your pillows, for your comforters. They love that natural, and they're allergic to vinyl or some of the more natural plastics and stuff. They have to have the original duties. Now, abandoned mine plugger, I would love this job.
I want to know where you sign up for that one.
No kidding.
Wells would probably like that one too.
Yes. Because you think about it, up here in the Black Hills, you have a cave that has had 2 kids fall in. They've had to fish the kids out, and they have 1 of 2 choices. They can either A, they put up a gate with access so that the bats can get in and out, which is good. Or if they discover that there are no bats and they just want to close it up, you get to, usually with the help of the National Guard, dynamite it. Or sometimes, C4 or whatever they want to use. But the idea is that they will seal the mine so nobody can get in or out. Hopefully everybody's out when they do it.
Uh-oh. I
do know that there was one occasion where a person actually died in one and they decided to seal it just so that wouldn't happen again. Kind of a nasty story that happened there. Professional mourner. For those of you who are on Facebook with 300 friends and you die, be sure to put out a memo that your professional mourners can attend your funeral.
This is mostly used in Japan. And I don't know if they still do it. But long, long ago, when, Japan was a small place and families were scattered, if somebody died and they didn't have any relatives that were close to make it to the funeral, they would hire mourners to come mourn them. Or if they were somebody who was, didn't like their family or wasn't connected to their family, they would pay people to come mourn them so that they didn't have to die alone or be buried alone, I guess.
No, I have 2 horrible practical jokes. Somebody out there has to help me. When I die, I want somebody to show up as the Grim Reaper. Or I want 4 of you to show up in suits, ties, and sunglasses and say, "The boss is gone." Just so they think I was with the mafia. Now, next up, professional sleeper.
I wish I could get that job because, no, I can't have that job because I don't sleep well.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, this one actually is still used both for research purposes. People can get paid upwards to $1,000 some to be able to sleep and track your sleep for 30 days. Again, I don't know how long they require each person to sleep each day.
I don't even remember. These are things, though, when I was in school, and they were like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I don't remember any of these being on the list of options. No. And when you go to career day or you take one of those career tests, I don't remember any of these being on there.
Would be great. Here's another one. Professional cuddler.
Now that one's very popular.
Yeah, that one's actually big out here in New York, in California, in Japan. If you're lonely, if you're away from loved ones, and you're just feeling kind of bad, feeling kind of depressed, pick up the phone and call 1-800-CUDDLE. Fortune cookie writer. This one has been part of so many great jokes. Help me, I'm trapped in the cookie fortune factory. Let me out. I mean, just think about it. Who would notice the cookie? All of a sudden, you're sitting there eating, and you see a message, and it says, howdy. It would be great, And I imagine there's probably a code or something like that you punch in for, the winning lottery numbers, the Chinese quote of the day, all that sort of stuff. Face feeler.
This one took us a little bit to figure out what the hell it was. And basically, it's kind of like what the title says. They feel faces. This is for, like, makeup and lotions. I don't know how much they use it anymore since products tend to lie about the effects of their product.
Right.
But it's basically back in, like, the 50s and 60s. They would have somebody test a soap or a lotion, and then this person would feel that person's skin to see, is it smoother? Is it feel dirty? Is it grimy?
You got a pimple.
I didn't need you to touch my face to know that.
Next up, iceberg mover. Now this one I can actually see, with the whole global warming and all that good stuff. But if icebergs were to break loose and get into certain coastal waters where shipping lanes are, I could see them, hiring a quick second company that is able to go out, hook onto the iceberg, and pull it out of the given navigational paths. It happens. They have a lot of ships now that are going down to Antarctica. So I imagine it's probably still quite a lucrative business. This one just creeps the heck out of me. Paper towel sniffer. Fred, what are you doing in there? I'm sniffing paper towels.
You imagine
Bye, Fred.
In the newspaper.
Oh, God.
And then what is the test? Do they just put up a whole bunch of rolls and you have to smell them and determine which one's scented?
This is Abco. And this is Jersey. What's the difference in the smell? It just seems weird to me. My question is why? Because paper towels don't come with a scent. No, they don't.
Or at least most of them don't.
Unless they start getting moldy or something. If they got damp or something like that. But even then, when do they use it and how do they use it?
I think there are better ways other than smelling it to find out things like mold.
True. Professional paint drying watcher.
This has got to be the most boring job ever.
Exactly. I'm watching that paint.
And, they used to make fun of that, it's like watching paint dry. I remember that saying from somewhere.
Watching grass grow, watching paint dry.
And literally, it's a job. Yeah. I want that job. I will not do very good at it because I will get bored and my brain will wander off. But
I just keep thinking of Ryan Stiles going, another 30 minutes, I get to put on a second coat.
Yes, I remember that one.
Now, this one I think would be kind of awesome because when we first thought about it, when you just look at the title, Legal Bank Robber.
Hey, technically, we have bank robbers in our family tree. We might be able to do it.
Yes, because you think about robbing a bank and doing it legally, there's a couple different ways. A, you could be doing a test. You want to see how well their security system is set up. You know, how many guards would they need on duty? Now, at the same time, in this day and age, a lot of your electronic thievery is done from black hats.
Right, but that would be the ethical hacker.
Right.
That would combat those.
But it would still be a bank.
Technically, well, I don't know if that would be different, but I think it would be different. Because I think they probably don't know if they do this bank robbing anymore. But think about in the olden days when they had, you know, bank robbers like, you know, when Jesse and Butcher were around.
Right.
Or, you know, before computers were such a big thing. You know, people would rob banks, and these people would probably be kind of like the safeguard, or like the safe testers. They are the ways to make sure that nobody can get in to said bank.
Sure.
I'm thinking physical banks, but, you know, digital banks, but that would be more of a hacker thingy than
a legal bank robber.
Right.
When Sue told me this, I had to shake my head. Knocker upper.
Hey, well, that was on the radio.
I know, but at the same time, I'm here to knock you up. No, just kidding, you know.
That's not what it means.
Suddenly husband comes to the door with a shotgun.
That's not what it means.
I know. I'm giving my hard time. But what's also interesting is if you think about it, these are the guys that would come around every morning, you know, for those of you, you know, this probably predates alarm clocks, that would knock on doors.
This was, from what I understood, it was in like the Victorian era.
And in your cities instead of on your farms where the roosters would do their job. But they would basically wake you up to let you know it's time to start your day. They would go like door to door. Hotel, and they have
somebody who calls you.
Right, room
this
service.
Was them, except for they went door to door.
Right. Groom of the stool.
Okay, I included this one because I was like, what on earth? And it's almost as bad as it sounds. Basically, this poor person had to go to the bathroom with the king. And he had to entertain the king while the king was doing his business.
This is when I use the joke. It's a crappy job.
It's a very crappy job.
Link boy?
Link boy. Oh, hang on a minute. I have to pull that one up. Oh, those were people who were basically young adults who walked drunk people home. This was before, you know, cars were a really big thing. If somebody was at the tavern and got drunk, they would walk that person to their home so they went to the right house, they didn't hurt themselves, things like that.
Kind of like a non-sex escort service, baby. Let's go. Come on.
Kind of.
Come on, Gramps. If your son wasn't with you or your grandson wasn't with you, I got to take Dad home. Come on. Next up, leech collector, because, you know, I can still see it because, you know, those of us who had biology, you either dissected a frog or you dissected a leech or, you know, something else small, but you had to use it for dissection class. They also, interesting enough, they are quite well used in fishing bait, which is something I've never even thought of. And of course, lamplighters, because back then, you know, before the advent of street lights, you'd have a guy that would go out there as dusk was coming along, and he would light the lights at signposts, and then as the sun was going down, he would go out and snuff the candles. And it was what they did before the advent of electricity here in America. But these are some of the fun-filled, you know, employments that they have had. And other jobs, you know, for example, where ingenuity has proven its way, in the days when they used to go and collect pearls. You know, people used to dive for pearls.
Right.
Nowadays, they've got farms.
Right.
Where, you know, if you needed to keep your supply of pearls going.
They had pin setters for bowling. We no longer do that because they have a machine now.
Right.
There's the telephone.
The interchange.
Yeah, the switchboard.
Yeah.
That's
the word. Yep. Yep. And we've seen some of those in museums. And I can imagine at the time, we saw on one of the shows we were watching, and it was kind of the irony, because one guy was running a undertaker business, and for some reason he wasn't getting any customers. Well, it turns out the competition's wife ran the switchboard, and so she kept redirecting calls to the other guy's business. Oops. Nothing suspicious there,
Nothing suspicious there.
Why is my call volume went from 20 to 0? Well,
there's town criers, which mostly social media has replaced.
Right.
Which I think is kind of a good thing in a way. Mostly because more people are more likely to actually hear about things.
Uh-huh. And I mean, you think about what things like email has done to the post office.
The post office was sucky before email started.
Oh, yeah. But as well, the fact that if you can get your information in 2 minutes versus 3 days via letter, you can see where, the massive difference has changed. Now, most of the time, your packages and stuff like that are physical items that you bought, if you trust the post office to even mail them that way. Which is why UPS and Federal Express are, have grown so strong.
Right.
People just don't trust the post office anymore. But anyway, folks, I hope you've had a good Labor Day. I think our next one coming up is going to be Veterans Day.
That would be the next holiday, yeah.
Yeah.
We got a video for that.
Yeah, but we're going to have a busy September. And so you folks tune in next week, and we'll catch you later. Have a good one.